Hey, welcome back to the garden. Glasses off because the glare is maddening. I might put them back on in a minute, but yeah, it is what it is. But welcome back to Nia's garden. This is Iadania. Today is May 18th. Yeah, today's May 18th. We just had the full moon, lunar, super full moon, lunar blood moon eclipse in Scorpio. And this morning, I got like a whole lot of, content ideas. So this was asked to redo a video I did back in December about why astrology. So I'm going to run it back. If you watched the first one, thank you so much. Hopefully you'll still get something useful out of this one. Just as a disclaimer, my 4-year-old is here, so he may or may not stick his head in. And I just went real blue just then. Okay. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So let's talk about what astrology is. And you know what? Let me pull up a definition. All righty, so I've got the definition from Merriam-Webster, and it says astrology is the divination of the supposed influences of the stars and planets on human affairs and terrestrial events by their positions and aspects. That was a lot of words. So I'm going to reframe it. So it's astronomy is the study of the movement of, the study of the celestial bodies in general. Astrology takes that particular study and looks at how those celestial bodies influence things happening on Earth. Now, what in the world, why would there be an influence on Earth by these bodies? So this is my perception of it, and everyone can have their own, but this is mine. So I have a belief in a higher power. God is created, the most high source, whatever I'm feeling called to. So higher power created everything, including everything in the cosmos. I feel like the majority of us that have a belief in a higher power have that agreement. Everything we know that exists, don't know that exists, comes from one source. So we also know from a scientific perspective, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, only changing forms. So the energy of source simply has just gone and changed into all of these various forms, including the celestial bodies, including the space the celestial bodies inhabit. That space is not empty. There is energy within that space. And so that energy is in motion because energy is always in motion. We are energy. We're just moving in a slower motion. That's why we have a physical form. But air is energy. Water is energy. Everything we see, feel, touch, and can't see, feel, and touch as energy. So when I picture what's happening in astrology and the why, the first question is, why did God make the planets move? Is it just because that God was just sitting there like, yo, you know what'll be real dope? If I create all these little round things in the space and let's let them move. And there's no reason. There's no reason. And that's not a dig. That is just, I want you to sit with that concept. God created these things and gave these things an assignment to move. Just because they're not a talking person doesn't mean they don't have an assignment. And their assignment is to move. So why would that be just an accident and have absolutely no bearing on what happens on Earth? We're moving too. We're moving too. And there's a pattern to the movement. Otherwise, astronomers and astrologers would not be able to predict where these planets are. There is a pattern. There's a science. There is a conscious decision happening about how these planets move. So again, the question becomes, did God just feel like it was cool, or is there a reason? I like to err on the side that there's a reason for it. So that's why I give credence to astrology. Beyond that, I've been able to actually see it in action and have proof that there is credence to this. And you can say, well, that doesn't end. That's cool. That's totally up to your discretion. But I would say for folks that are just looking to understand why other people have an open mind and open up to the possibility that everything that God has done, created in this world has purpose. I'll give you a non-astrology example. Let's say you're out and about, and let's say you're going for a walk. You're going to walk in a park, woods, a nice little wooded area, and you see all of these animals hauling tail in the opposite direction. You're going this way, and it's just like a gang of animals going the opposite way. My question for you is, which way are you going to go? So if you decide to turn around and follow the animals, God put something on them animals to let them know something was up. And to be going in that exact time that you're walking to ensure, because they could have been going a whole nother route. They still could have been going the same way in a whole nother route where you didn't see it, but you do. And now you may have, missed on some calamity because you paid attention to what the heck them animals was doing. Oh, we'll do the running joke. So there's a joke, like you see a group of Black people running, you should probably run too. Don't ask no questions. If they're running, just go. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. I could get into the melanin and intuition and all that good stuff, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what race you are, nationality, ethnicity, whatever words you want to choose. Most people, if you see a gang of people running in one direction, and it's not this ain't no track meet or anything like that. This isn't a marathon. They just with a sense of urgency. I'm going with them. I'm going with them. At bare minimum, I'm going back to my car, going back wherever. I'm not going to continue in the way I was going. If they're leaving there, I'm leaving too. I'm just going to leave. I can be right, I can be wrong, but I'm ever err on the side of caution. I'm going to leave too. It's the same thing. So there is a reason. There is a rhyme and there's a reason. And it doesn't mean that you don't have free will. Please understand, this is not to say, well, you do have free will. You absolutely have free will. And your choice is, are you going to, you could choose to listen to your ego. You could choose to listen to your intuition and trust in your higher self. You could choose to fight against the current of the energy happening around you, or you flow with it and move more in alignment with ease and allow whatever is supposed to be happening to happen. That is your choice. That is your choice. You can choose to co-create your life, your world, your space, using the power of the word, because that's what was given to you, or you could just choose allow life to happen to you. All of these things are choices. All of these things are choices. So when an astrology perspective, astrology is a divinatory tool. It is a way for us to understand some of the energy that is moving around in the cosmos. So we got space, and there's all this energy in space. We got stars in space. We have asteroids in space. We have planets in space. We have all this stuff happening in space. So get my words right. Okay, so the energy in space, then each celestial body, including Earth, has its own energy. So we've got, and I forgot all the moons in space. So we have everything has energy, and all of this energy is moving, fast or slow, depending on whether it's solid or not. So the energy in space is moving really fast. So it's fast enough to move through celestial bodies. So we have the energy in space moving through the celestial body. It's going to pick up the energy of that celestial body, and it's going to keep on going where it's going. From astrology perspective, that energy is also coming towards Earth. The moon is a perfect example. The moon is a celestial body. It has its own energy. It has the energy from space moving through it. And thus, when the moon, depending on what the moon is doing, how it is influencing Earth. From a farmer's perspective, this is why, and this is for people who work with the moon to understand. So when the moon is in a waxing phase, the water in the soil is higher up, and thus the soil is more nourished, and it is a better time to plant seeds. This is why we set intention with the new moon. We manifest with the waxing moon. We set intention with the new moon. We manifest with the waxing moon. As the moon becomes more and more full, the water starts to recede, deeper into the ground. The roots are going deeper into the ground, and you've got, whatever is growing is growing. When you get to the full moon, it is generally speaking a time of harvest, a time to relook at your crops and see what you want to harvest, what maybe not need to harvest. You're reevaluating your crop at that time. Depending on how long it takes for certain things to grow, you may be harvesting, or you may be looking at the harvest. Your lunar cycle, yes, there's a lunar cycle within a month, but your true lunar cycle is through the zodiac signs. So it is from the new moon in one sign to the full moon in the other sign. That is why your true harvest from that new moon, you don't see it until the full moon comes back around in that sign. So whatever intentions you set for that new moon in Aries, you will not see again until Libra season, when there is a full moon in Aries. Hopefully that was a good analogy. But that is why, so if you planted seeds in the springtime, in Aries season, you will be harvesting them in the fall, in Libra season. And that is because that is how the moon is influencing the water. The moon influences all water, every water, not just certain water. All water on Earth is influenced by the moon. So if all water is influenced by the moon, and we are like 70% water, this is why for womb holders, our cycle is influenced by the moon. Traditionally, we would all be having our cycle with the new moon, because just ignore. We would be having it with the new moon because at the time, prior to like street lights and things, everything was influenced by the sun and the moon, because those were the luminaries that we had to go by. So your physical body reacts to light, and our physical body was, okay, cool, just like in the harvest. So our cycle would start with the new moon. By the time our cycle ended, we would be in a waxing moon phase. We would be fertile at that time. And if we did not act on that fertility for whatever reason, we would go ahead and release, we would be able to release when it comes back around again after that full moon. Like we got to after that full moon, it's like, okay, cool. So then the internal shedding process is happening. We just don't see it escape until the new moon again. So, again, this is something, at least from a scientific, everybody's like, okay, cool. So the moon influences that the earth, the sun has, so nothing else out there is doing anything though. The moon has a job, the sun has a job, everything else though is just sitting there looking cute. Okay, if you say so. If you say so. For me, that is illogical. That is not even a spiritual thing. It's illogical to feel like the sun has an influence on us, the moon has an influence on us, but nothing else in the cosmos does. It's just sitting there looking pretty when we're literally moving around with all that stuff. It doesn't make sense to me to not see it that way. So that is why astrology. That's why. And understanding from even a higher spiritual perspective, God created all of these things. God created all of these things. All of these things are in place for a reason. Understanding the perfection in how the gravitational pull allows us to orbit the sun without moving into it and being obliterated. How the moon moves around us and is perfectly positioned to influence the water on Earth in the way that it does. Even we'll take Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde is one of those things everybody, even if they don't follow astrology, will like, oh, snap, Mercury retrograde. There is credence to that. Mercury rules your mind. Mercury rules thoughts, ideas, communication, our will to do something, because our will starts as a thought. So our will to do things, it is also the ruler of technology, anything related to communication, travel. This is all Mercury's domain. This is all the domain of Mercury. So when Mercury is not moving in the way that it normally moves, its influence on us is not in the way that it's normally influenced. It's also more potent at that time because it's not that retrograde doesn't mean it's literally moving backwards. It's just how it looks to us from Earth. So it looks like it's going the opposite way, and it's just simply moving much, 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 much slower, and that's why it looks that way. So when you think about Mercury retrograde, everyone during Mercury retrograde has a technology something, whether that is something good or not so great. You know, everyone has something that happens during Mercury retrograde related to technology. There's a security breach that comes out. You get all these random spam emails. Your phone gets all weird and glitchy. The internet, connection isn't the best. All of these things happen across the entire planet during Mercury retrograde because you hear people talking about it sporadically. So there is credence to, there is an influence of the planet's movements on what's happening on Earth. It's simply everything that's happening in the cosmos is simply a reflection of what's happening on Earth and vice versa. Everything that's happening in nature is a reflection of what's happening in our bodies. So our environment, that's why, like, say if you're feeling bad, clean your house, because your environment is a reflection of your mind, your internal landscape. Your external landscape is an influence, a reflection of your internal landscape. It's not that one is controlling the other, they're mirroring each other. And the same thing goes for the planets. The energy of the planets is moving through Earth, whether you like it or not. That energy is hitting us. And astrologers are simply, if a prophet said the same thing, because they're in the Bible. Oh, this is happening, we see this happening, and this is why this is the case. And you've like read stories and parables of where they're actually talking about the moon or something else. Such and such is happening in the sky, and this means this, and then they're right. That is astrology. The fact that they're called a prophet and someone else is an astrologer doesn't make the tool, the divination, the skill set dead. It's not gone. There's just more people you have an awareness that have that gift because we have an awareness of more people. We didn't have an awareness of so many people back then. We now know more people. We know people across the world thanks to the gift of the internet. So we have more access to more people who are actually more tapped into this knowledge. The fact that they have it and you don't doesn't disclaim the fact that it exists. It doesn't negate. And so I'm thinking about horoscopes, and someone say, well, like my horoscope doesn't always come true. You know why? Because it's only based on your sun sign. And we are more than just our sun sign. Your actual horoscope, to be fully accurate, should have representation of both your sun, moon, rising, and I would challenge even your midheaven. But at bare minimum, your sun, moon, and rising. That will give you the full landscape of what's going on. Your rising sign is the most accurate. So if you were to read the horoscope of your rising sign, chances are that would be most accurate because your rising sign is showing where in your life that influence is taking place. Because as the way it's worked is that the cosmos above Earth has been mapped out into what's called houses. And those houses are simply areas of life. So depending on where around Earth, where in the orbit that the planets are, what area of life is being influenced. So let's say Mercury, I'll give a good example. Mercury retrograde right now, I think it's still in Gemini at this moment, but it's in my 12th house. And my 12th house rules the subconscious. It rules institutions like hospitals and things like that. It rules dreams, 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 dreams. I'm a dreamer naturally. I have a natural dreaming clairvoyant. Dreaming is what I do, but wow. Even now, when I didn't write my dream down, I can still see glimpses of my dream. Like they have been vivid and potent. They have been vivid and they have been potent. I don't know. Yeah. I have been able to tap in energetically in ways that I haven't been able to tap in before. I had a whole conversation because the 12th house is also reflective of your birth, because it's a house of endings and beginnings, because it's moving into the first house. So it is the house of your actual birth, how your mom experienced your birth. And for some reason yesterday, that's what I wanted to talk about was, can you tell me what it was like when I was born? Because I kind of just want to see if I can see that in my birth chart. And actually, once she started to tell it to me, it was really cool how I was able to see some of the influences in my birth chart. So it's even my progress chart, because astrology isn't simply just about where you were when you were born, but where you are, where your soul is journeying. An astrology birth chart is your soul contract. It is when you were sitting in the garden. That's what I like to picture it as, an eternal garden. You've gone into the section of the garden where the creator is sitting, and the divine mother is like, you know what? Let's talk about it. You want to go to Earth? Let's talk about it. What do you want to do? And you sit and y'all map it out. This is what I want to experience. This is how I want my soul to progress. All of this is mapped out before you come to Earth. But because your energy is really, really high when you're not in your physical body, when you come down through the portal that is in Mother's, I'll throw that in there. When you come down to Earth and you do take on a physical form, your energy slows down. And so your ability to access that higher realm knowledge, you forget how to do so. You're still somewhat tapped in as children. That's why sometimes when your kids say things to you, you should not poo-poo that and maybe listen to what they said, because they are still very much connected to source. Until they start experiencing like trauma, things like that, and they're being told like you can't do this or that doesn't work or that doesn't exist, until you as the parent, you as the adult who have forgotten, start trying to make your children forget, they remember. They remember, and you should probably listen. And so you know, that energy is still there, but you just don't remember it. And the beautiful thing about astrologers and numerologists and all of these other people who have decided to connect to those higher energies is they are learning how to remember for themselves and trying to teach us how to learn and move from ourselves. God doesn't want us to sit around and suffer and like, hey, I don't really know what I should be doing and floundering. God knows that you forget. It's by design. That's part of the journey, is to come back to remembering. God, you're an aspect of God. And I wrote a poem, and in the poem I said, I'm going to forget you. And the divine mother is like, it's okay. When you remember, I'll remember who you are. And it was like, yo, that was such a beautiful, when you remember, God's going to remember who you are. And that is the point of studying your birth chart. That is the point of, even if you don't get the whole thing, your sun, moon, and rising, like just that alone, even for me, when I rediscovered astrology, because I liked it as a kid, but when I rediscovered astrology and learned I was more than just a sun sign, that was like a game changer. It was such a game changer. I was able to see things in my chart, like the fact that I would have PCOS. It doesn't say, oh, you're going to have PCOS, but it did show that there would be some instability in my fertility, because in the place where it rules children is Uranus, which is an unstable energy. Seeing how, like, my conception, at each conception point, I could see it in my birth chart. So for specifically, like my firstborn and my youngest, they were surprises. Yeah, the youngest was a surprise. Like I didn't what like when I got pregnant with Jaheim, I was pretty much I knew I was pregnant. Um, when I was pregnant with Gabriel, my firstborn, I didn't think I could get pregnant. And then when I had the youngest, it was the pregnancy symptoms had only been around a couple of days when I realized, when I finally took the test. But like with Jaheim, I had had symptoms for a minute. I had known for a minute, even before I got a positive on my pregnancy test, I knew I was pregnant. And what I noticed in my birth chart, in my fifth house, Uranus sits, and I was going through a Uranus transit in that spot. Like literally, Uranus and Uranus are like, "Hey, how are you? What's up? What's popping? What's popping?" And a Uranus transit in your fifth house or transiting your moon, and the moon ironically was there both times. Those transits indicate an unexpected pregnancy, which is what I had, was an unexpected pregnancy. Um, Ironically, Jaheim was divined by both a friend and my now ex. Both said I would have a child by the end of the year. Like both of them did, and I was just like, okay. I just thought they were trying to make me feel better after Gabriel passed away. But lo and behold, both things they divined came true. My friend told me I would be pregnant while she was pregnant, and I was. Like we were pregnant together twice because I got pregnant, she got pregnant. Gabriel, sadly passed away, but before full term. So there was still like 4 months left in my pregnancy. And well, 5 months left in my pregnancy when she was due a month after Gabriel's original due date. And so she was like, you're going to be pregnant again before I give birth. And I was pregnant again a few months before she gave birth. My ex, maybe a week or so after Gabriel passed away, was like, you're going to have another baby. And it's like, you don't have to be sad. You're going to have a baby by the end of the year. What? And I'm like, I don't think that's mathematically possible. I mean, technically it is, but I was just like, I wasn't like paying him any attention. And even a few weeks later, he's like, you smell pregnant. And I'm just like, what? But I was pregnant. So yesterday I decided to go back to my birth chart and look. And sure enough, I could see I was having a transit in that particular spot. But it wasn't like a Uranus transit. And it wasn't a Uranus transit because I had already been told I could be pregnant. So it wasn't a surprise. It wasn't unexpected. But yeah, like Uranus was doing some work on me at the time. So, things like that, your career, what you would be most, not the specific, like, hey, you're going to be a teacher, but the energies around the careers that are most in alignment with what your soul wants to do in this world will show in your birth chart. Everything I do currently shows in my birth chart. Everything, all the way, including Reiki. Like in the area of your day-to-day life, which would be, it's not your career, but it's a thing you do every day, which typically is related to your career. So that's why it's a workplace that you look at. But Reiki sits there. Literally, the asteroid Reiki is sitting right there in that spot. So, and I am a Reiki master. So there's just little things, even poetry is super heavy in my poetry, teaching, music, and spirituality are like really, really, really heavy in my chart. And I have incorporated all of those in what I do for a living. So I would say be open-minded. Like when you talk to people like, you're crazy, be open-minded. Like if you don't believe it, have somebody read your chart. It's been funny because every once in a while I'll meet somebody and be like, you tell me what time you was born? And they do, because I'm wonderful. And if they know it, they'll give it to me. So they give it to me. And then I'm like, it's almost like you want to see something cool. And then I'll just like run it. And they're all like, especially if I don't really know them like that. Like it's always like, How do you know that? It's right there. I'm looking at it. It's right. I'm literally looking at it. And I'm not a professional astrologer. I am still studying, but I know enough to be dangerous. And so I would encourage you to just see. Just see. And if you are one that believes, like, God is moving and everything has a reason, please note that doesn't stop here on earth. If everything has a reason, everything has a reason. If everything has a reason, everything has a reason. You don't get to pick and choose. There is a reason. There is a rhyme and reason for everything. And that is my practically spiritual assessment on why astrology. So I hope that you like this. So I'm going to go ahead and answer this question because I know I'm going to get it. It's like, well, will you do a birth chart for me? I will do a mini birth chart reading for you. Yes. If you inbox me, that's something you want, I will do a mini birth chart reading for you. I will not profess to do a full-blown birth chart reading yet. That is coming. But I do include astrology in almost all of my divination. So if you book a reading with me and you give me your birth time, location, I will include that in your reading. I also include numerology in your readings. I will do a full, you can get a basic numerology profile, and I'm going to get ready to add like a really in-depth option for you to purchase. So you can purchase a numerology profile from me if that's something you want to do. If you're not sure what you need, you can book a free 15-minute consultation. We could talk about it. If you feel like you need longer than that, you could book a Pick Your Brain section, and we'll do that. Fun fact, he's asleep. Like he was putting on a show, and at this moment, he's completely knocked out. But yeah, that is my breakdown. Please like, please share. If you're new here, I hope that you stay in the garden for a while. There's plenty of hammocks. Go ahead and subscribe. And like I said, I'm not in podcast season, so I'm in YouTube season. So as I feel moved, content is coming. I hope that you enjoyed. Make sure you comment below what you think, and have a great day. Bye.